Hello and welcome to my channel. How are you doing today? My name is Lynn and I've already glimmered some of these amazing sets from the latest Simon Hurley collection, and there are some really gorgeous background dyes and this pair of ornaments, which I think is awesome. And anytime I do foiling, I like to foil the positive, save the negative, and foil the negative as well. The ornaments do have a coordinating die to cut them both out, and they are combined as a single image. You'll see the top ornament that overlaps the bottom one a little bit. So when you die cut, it die cuts them out together, which is really nice. And I don't know that I'll necessarily use the negative version. That's what I'm die cutting now. But I thought I would, just in case, just so that I have some option. And if you ever get any overfoiling, here I've foiled onto some solid color cardstock from Spellbinders. I love their cardstock because it's 100-pound cover weight. So that matches the 100-pound cover weight of the hammer mill paper that I normally get the best results with when I foil. So I find that I get comparable results foiling onto the Spellbinders solid color cardstock. Some of the other solid color cardstock I have, either it's textured or maybe a little bit too lightweight, so I don't really get as good of a foiling as I would like. The black cardstock that I use is probably the only exception, and that's because that is also, I think it's actually 110-pound what I use. So if you ever do get any overfoiling, you could use a white eraser, like I'm doing here, to just erase right over those areas, and that should actually pick up and remove most of your overfoiling. I think a lot of times the overfoiling just might be that it's a little bit attached to other foil that's been pressed into the paper, but it's not really been debossed into the paper by the actual glimmer plate. So it can be fairly easy to just use your white eraser to remove some of that. If you do have parts that are a little bit more stubborn, you might take maybe a small sand eraser and use that, because that's a little bit more abrasive than your white eraser, and so that might help. But just be careful if you're doing that, and don't go over your glimmered design, because you could actually, because it's so abrasive, you could actually lift some of that. So here I'm using some Versamark. This is a clear-ish watermark stamp. It actually has a little bit of like a frosted finish to it. So it's still very, very subtle, but when you tilt it, you can really, and maybe at some angles for some of the impressions, you can still see a little bit of that frostiness. And I like it for when I just want to add a little bit of subtle shine. And the whole idea of watermarking a background, and here I've just taken one of the sentiments from the stamp set off to the left there. But the idea behind this technique is just to add some visual texture to the background. It's not so much to have this be legible, the actual sentiment. It's more just to have some pattern back there. I can't even, in most cases, fit the full sentiment in any of the sections where I stamped it. So it's definitely not meant to be read. So if you don't get perfect impression, I think that's actually better. And I chose to use the frosty type of watermark because that being a holiday card, I probably go a little bit over the top with the with the shine, but I think if there's one time of year to go a little bit over the top, Christmas and the holidays is that time of year. So it just adds a little something, and it makes it feel not quite as flat anymore, which for me is still a bit of a struggle to leave a lot of negative space. So it's not, it's just a personal aesthetic, what you like, but I'm still trying to kind of get comfortable with leaving a lot of negative space. And and I think my blade on my trimmer is a little bit dull. It didn't quite make it through. So I had to take it to my guillotine, which is always very reliable. Gives you perfect sharp cuts every time, and you don't need to actually sharpen it or replace the blades. So I decided to add a black border to this Glimmered panel, and the reason for that is because I have the Glimmered sentiments that come in this collection, which I love because, well, for one, I really love the font choice, and second, I love that the Glimmer plate has all of the sentiments, so you can glimmer the one time and get a handful of sentiments, and then the coordinating dies can cut out all of those glimmered sentiments in one go. So it's so convenient and fast to just get a lot of holiday sentiments, which I think for the holiday season is really nice because if you're kind of last minute and or you just have a lot to make, it's really nice to be able to get so many sentiments in Glimmered in one pass and then all die cut out in one pass. So here I just got this. It's on Kim Creates uses this gorgeous super thin gold floss. It's an embroidery floss, and I've been envying it ever since I saw her use it. And she's got it in like a handful of colors and growing as far as I understand. But this is really gorgeous. I only have it so far in gold and silver, but I've doubled it up because it is a very fine thread, and it's really lovely. It drapes really well, as you can see. It's thin, so it could be a little bit fiddly to tie, but it's I thought it would be kind of the perfect little extra something to add. Now, the ornaments, as you can see in the Glimmered design, does have suggestion of some ribbon at the top of the ornament there, but I don't think it takes anything away from that to add some actual twine, some actual thread up there as well. And the gold just happens to work really well with this particular shade of gold glimmer foil. I don't remember exactly which one I used because it's been a while since I've glimmered these panels. I like to just do all of my glimmering in one go while the machine is nice and hot, and then decide when I'm making my card what I'll actually use. And I this card I'm making here, it's a lot of shine, so it starts with the background that is really lovely. It's got a snowflake design, but it's also just very sort of geometric and abstract. So, I think it could be used really for anything. I see it as snowflakes, but I think you could use it for just a geometric pattern. And I think that I was going to use one of the negative foiled sets of ornaments, but I decided to use the positive because the positive will have that white outline. that I think helps to kind of set it apart from the foiled background. So, and again, I'm using black because I have the black, the gold on black sentiment, but also I find that the black border helps to tone down some of that shine of, especially because the entire background is foiled. I think it helps, at least to my eyes, it helps to anchor it a little bit, having that black border, and then it also makes it so that the sentiment that is foiled onto black isn't the only bit of black. I try not to only have my sentiment be the only thing that's black. If that ends up being the case, I'll try to stamp my sentiment in a different color, for example, just so that, because black is such a strong color, when it's the only bit, if you only have the one area of black, it can be, it can really grab too much attention. At least that's how my eyes see it. My eyes kind of are always drawn to darker colors, and so I always see that first. And so if I see just a bit of black and it's the only bit of black, then my eyes just immediately go there. But when you have a border that's all black, then to my eyes anyways, it kind of invites me to just kind of look at everything else, because that black is just a frame, and then the black on the sentiment just seems to coordinate but doesn't quite grab as much attention. So that's my thought process. It's a lot of it is kind of designing to how my eyes see things, obviously, and so everybody's different. So but I try to keep that in mind. And I pulled out my Barely Art glue because I started using it just to try it out, and I do like it. So but then I don't know why I kind of put it aside for a little while. So I need to just pull it out a little bit more regularly and use it. You don't need a ton of it. It seems like a really strong glue. I like that it's nice and thick, so I take that to mean it doesn't have a super high water content, which usually is an indicator that it's fairly quick grabbing, meaning it won't be completely dry, but it's sticky enough or tacky enough that it's going to hold firm relatively quickly. So when your two pieces you're gluing down make contact, you're not gonna really be able to slide her around too much, and it'll be it'll be held in place, not permanently straight away, but rather firmly, and that way you can kind of continue on with your crafting and not feel like those pieces are still slipping and sliding underneath. So some glues like Collage All-Purpose Glue, which is a solvent-based glue, has a very long open time. So if you're looking for a lot of time to nudge things around, that glue is great for that. But generally, I like to work with, nice quality, low water content PVA glues like Barely Art, and I think Lenco Neutral pH is still my favorite. But everybody sort of has their own personal choice. Just, I would make sure that, especially since I do a lot of mini albums, I definitely trust the Lenco pH Neutral brand, because it clearly states that it's acid-free and archival safe. And I actually don't see that on the Barely Arts glue. I might have missed it, so if that's my own misunderstanding, then I hope somebody will correct me in the comments below. But my big question mark, I'll say, is with Barely Art glue, is it acid free? Is it archival safe? Can I use it for my mini albums where photos might come in contact with either the glue directly or with other layers that have been attached with the glue. So usually if it is archival safe and acid free, it's a big selling point. So usually if that is the case, it's very clearly stated on the product, and I just don't see that as the case here. So I'm going to be pulling it out more and more from my card making and leaving my Lenco neutral pH for my album making. But I think overall, Lenco neutral pH is also just a less expensive option, so that's still my favorite. So I'm kind of underway on this tag here. I've used a tag die from Spellbinders, excuse me, and I'm just spritzing it with some, I think this is Mica Mist. It's a sample size that comes in Tonic Studios craft kits, and I have actually two different colors. One is a very light frosty pink, and the other is slightly darker. Got kind of a big splotch there, but I wasn't going for 100% coverage, and I just wanted to have a little bit of color variation between the two. They probably aren't exactly the same hue, but I think that that it'll work just fine for what I'm doing. So I've got one of the lovely stamps from the Simon Hurley collection here, and I really like these. I don't know what they're called, if they are called, it's almost like a grayscale kind of stamp where parts of it are solid, the stamp design, and parts are more open. And so the result is that you don't really have to color it in. I think from stamping you get some of that depth, because there's some areas of the poinsettia that are, for example, the leaves that are underneath other leaves are more solid stamp, more like a solid stamp. And the leaves that are on top are a little bit more open. And so straight away that difference gives you some depth and dimension. And so it's really nice. I like the effect of it. It's kind of, if you were to stamp this in a gray, or maybe a shade of brown, it would look like a black and white photo or a sepia tone photo. So I love that. I think it's pretty unique, I feel. I don't know that I have stamps like this, and so I think it's kind of cool. So this tag's going to be super simple. I just took one of the sentiments, and keeping everything nice and monochromatic, I've stamped that sentiment right in the center. And I did use the same poinsettia die, and it was, or stamp I should say, I was stamping over something that had, all of that mica mist, so it's not the perfect stamp impression for sure, I think because of that, but I'm okay with that. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't left with the impression that this stamp doesn't stamp well, because it stamps very, very well. It's just I'm stamping over an uneven surface that already has some media underneath it. But I really like that sort of, rustic kind of look. So here's a final look at all of the cards that I created. Have a lot of fun with this collection, and I really love how fast these holiday cards come together, and you get a lot of gorgeous glimmered images for not a lot of time. So it's really fantastic. I hope that you enjoyed these cards, and if you did, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.